Hi, my name is Susanna, and today I'm going to be talking about frames. No, not picture frames, but rather organizational frames and personal frames. So, organizational frames, what does this look like? So, a structural frame is going to involve rules, roles, and policies. So, an organization run with this structural frame would be very intense with following the rules, keeping employees on track, being very careful with the policies and paying attention to them and having employees pay attention to that. A green is a human resource frame focuses on others. So the needs and relationship with other people is important. In a human resource frame, that's their whole role is to find solutions for needs for others. A symbolic frame, sorry, is meaning, culture, stories. So I think that something's really interesting that we did in our class actually is we went around Purdue University and we kind of explored what symbolism and what this kind of frame looks like. So, for example, we have the bell tower, and someone who comes to Purdue on a tour without knowing what this means. This is why it's symbolic because it has a meaning and a culture and it has a story, I'm sorry, it has a story behind it. So for the others, it could just be, oh, that's just a bell tower. But for us Purdue students, we know there's a story of if you walk underneath it before you graduate, then you won't graduate on time or you'll drop out of Purdue. So that's just something that the bell tower is, yes, it is a bell tower with a bell on it and you can ring it. However, it also has a story and behind it, which is very symbolic. And then your last is political frame. So this is power and competition is really important in this frame. And so understand that there's colors on this screen here, and I'm going to go into that in a second. So I talked about organizational frames, but now also talking about personal frames. What could this look like? So we have four colors, and we learned this from the the Jung typology test. Sorry. And we understand that there's four colors, red, orange, wow, sorry, red, yellow, green, and blue. I was combining the colors. Red, yellow, green, and blue. And something that is important is that personal frames are not defining personality traits. This is something that our professor really mentioned at the beginning of when we talked about this, and something that I've taken away is that just because I keyword lean, a certain color, it doesn't define me, and it doesn't mean that I can't lean into a different side and a different color and benefit from those colors as well. It's also not an excuse for behavior. It's not like, oh, well, I'm just this yellow color or this red color I can't change and I can't be different. So I'm going to get into a little bit of the strengths, the liabilities, the weaknesses, um, and the pros and the strengths of what those colors can look like. But just to begin, so a red is going to be a competitive type of person, very strong-willed and determined to get the task done. Yellow, in short, is a sociable, kind of defined as an extrovert, is how I would look at that. Um, I think this is kind of like your most talkative person in your group. They're a little scatterbrained, and kind of a little bit all over the place. Some might describe as a type B personality. Your green is going to be more empathetic, caring, to others, individuals, kind of more laid back type of a personality instead of being high strung. And then your blue really pays attention to details and structure and focuses in on what needs to be done and how it can be organized. Kind of going back to our organizational frame, you can see now that the blue, it goes with structural frames. The green has to do with relationship with others and their needs. So that's human resources. Yellow symbolic, having meaning behind things. And then red is going to be your political, strong-willed frame. So that was on a good day. Now, what could that look like on a bad day? So your red is aggressive, controlling, overbearing, intolerant. Yellow is excitable, kind of, again, like I said, a little bit all over the place, kind of scatterbrained and hasty. Your green is going to be stubborn. And I think this is the most important one out of that, is that for the green frame, is that they would be stubborn, so not willing to work with others. And then your blue is going to be indecisive, cold, and reserved. So if something were to go wrong, this is might be how they respond in a reserved or cold way rather than trying to work through the problem with others. So again, my word of warning, you're not defined by these colors. However, this is how I lean. So I lean yellow. And something that I've learned is a strength of leaning yellow is I am a very extroverted person who is a type of person who kind of makes other people feel welcomed and make sure to be friendly to everyone. So I've actually made some of my best friends just by starting a random conversation with a stranger. And I think that's really cool. And not a lot of people can say that. So yeah, I'm an imaginative type of personality. And I enjoy building relationships and being the encourager of the group. And then some liabilities that I have definitely fallen short of is or I have fallen to is being able to lack focus. I think that's my greatest weakness is that sometimes it's hard for me to stay on task. Poor planning and follow-up. Something that goes along with this is a yellow personality is typically more, again, like I said, scatterbrain, but deadline or um due date motivated. So I might leave a task until later because I believe that I can be more productive and get it done in a better way if I have that pressure of a deadline. And that can be detrimental to a group setting if you have a project and you need to be working on it through the week, multiple times a week. And if that pressure is something that's really motivating, that would be something hard for a yellow leaning person to get over. Some do's and don'ts of my personal frame is being really friendly and sociable, like I said, is a great do. I think just one thing that goes along with this is my motivating, what motivates me. And so in a work setting, this would look like conversation from the boss to employee, and then also motivating words of encouragement and words of affirmation are what really motivate me. So these are and extrinsic motivators. So they come from other people rather than just what I feel inside. I need that kind of affirmation to know that I'm doing a good job so that I can be motivated to continue to do a good job. Something I learned in our class is that's not how a lot of people think. They could care less about what their boss, uh, if they're impressed with them or not. So this is something that I've learned is really beneficial to me. Even the other day, my boss said, "Hey, good job on this." That was like really exciting for me, and I even like texted other people. I was like, "Oh my gosh, look, I'm doing something really good," and that's just something that is motivating to me. So something that's don't with a yellow leaning personality is don't bore me with details. I can get the gist of it and move on. I don't need every little thing like laid out for me. And then tying me down with a routine. So something I've learned in a workplace that I need is something that's going to be different every single day. Something that I'm not just sitting in the same place doing the same exact thing every day, working with the same types of people. So this has been something that's helped me kind of learn what kind of job that I would like in the future. Something where I'm moving or not sitting down for like the whole day, somewhere where activity is important to the employers as well as the employees. Yeah, so that's just kind of something I'm looking for is just a high, fast-paced type of organization or company. And then lastly, don't ask me to work alone. So this is something that's been kind of hard for me recently. Working alone is difficult. I need other people around me. I find myself to be more motivated when I see other people working around me. So yeah, working alone is not one of my strengths. And then lastly, I would say that I kind of speak to think. And this is a downfall of a yellow type of personality. What we need to be doing is thinking before we speak, and that's something like my mom has always told me to do. And so that's just something that I'm working on. I think these roles are really important for organizations to be able to know, hey, this is where this employee and this employee, they can have different colors, but their strengths could be, they could benefit each other. And I think that's a really cool thing to be able to match people or group settings. with those strengths and how would this person work well with this? Or, hey, be cautious because a yellow person isn't going to work super well with a blue leaning person because of the lack of structure and focus is something that yellow struggles with. But then also it could be a motivating thing for blue to help yellow with that, and then for yellow to kind of help blue lighten up. So it's something that I think organizations should really take into account, and just a really cool way of using this type of personality test. Again, they don't define you, and I lean red as well. Getting things done, or I'm sorry, I lean like green as well, sorry. And being relational is something that's really important. So yeah, I think that it's important to know that you aren't defined by these roles. So thank you for listening, and that's all I have for you.